The all-new Yamaha V6 Offshore F350. It's a featherweight knockout, the lightest 350 horsepower outboard on the water, exhilarating boating and incredible control in a powerfully light design. The Yamaha V6 Offshore F350.
The Fishing News is sponsored by these fine partners.
It's true, I have an obsession, but not just striped bass, but I've had a week-long bout of lunacy during the April moon as the cackle of laughing gulls drives me to the local creek every night at dusk for the cinderworm spawn. Simple rigging, through-wired cork, a couple of barrels at each end, main line to one, a stretch of leader and small hook at the other with a small piece of cream worm. It's probably an 80-to-1 ratio of casts to actual hookups, and most of the stripers are on the small side, all piling on these baits, tens of thousands of tiny red cinder worms. You can imagine, it's a challenge. But actually over the weekend I had a pair of fish that were over slot. They were in the 32, 33 inch range, not that one. Most of them are on the small side, but you know, 30-inch class fish in a small creek, not too bad. I'm Jim Hutchinson with the New Jersey Delaware Bay edition of the Fisherman magazine. It's May 2nd, 2024. We're only 2 days out on the start of the summer flounder Fluke season at the Jersey Shore. I will talk about flatties and May 4th in just a couple of moments, but first let me wrap up this little week of lunar insanity. I've seen these hatches before behind LBI in late summer, usually in August, around the time of the moon. But the last few years in the upper Barnegat Bay, it's been happening regularly in April. As I mentioned before, all I've done is just through-wired a wine cork. I've got a stretch of leader on one side with a small bait holder hook, barrel on the other. This is where my main line goes. And then I'm taking these cream worms, Nick Cream worms, right? My buddies introduced me to this tactic because you could just take one of these worms, great imitation, cut it to about that size, put it on the hook, and just a steady retrieve in. It's about the best thing, the best match for trying to get one of these stripers to hit. I said it before, typically on Barnegat Bay where I am in the upper stretches of Barnegat Bay, it's the moon in April. And I'm not the only one. There's a bunch of people that are fishing on these cinder worms when the stripers are piling on them. This past weekend, a few folks down the creek from me were fishing these cinder worms beside their underwater lights. Watch this critter swim through. You see that? Yeah, so I know white perch will sip at these worms, weakfish too, but that, my friends, is a rainbow trout in the upper stretches of Barnegat Bay. It had to be a stocked rainbow. I would think from either the Matita conch or the Manasquan, but came down from freshwater stretches and settles into a saltwater lagoon in the upper stretches of Barnegat Bay. Now, Nick Nick D, a little jig head and what looks like a bloodworm. He caught it and he said, quote, "This stocked rainbow in my saltwater lagoon off Barnegat Bay." Now, in addition to Manasquan, Matita conch, Nick surmised maybe it was the Toms River, but he added, quote, "It was more silver than normal and fought really good. Arguably, that's a steelhead." Seriously, steelhead trout. If you think back 10, 15 years or more, the New Jersey Division of Fish and Wildlife, back in the days when the agency still used the word division, because the DEP Commissioner, Sean LaTourette, stopped the state agency from using the word division in Division of Fish and Wildlife because apparently the word division is divisive. Seriously, is this what we've come to? But I digress. So, the division used to stock brown trout in the lower stretches of the Manasquan River in hopes that those brownies would enter the salt, and that was part of the Sea Run brown trout program. Now, the word steelhead refers to a rainbow trout which actually is born in freshwater, goes down to salt, spends some time in salt, and then comes back to spawn in freshwater. This is a big salty rainbow that Nick caught in the off of the Beaver Dam Creek. I'm not sure if it's leaving, coming back, hanging out, if it's a true steelhead or not. But I'll tell you what, it's too bad this fish didn't have a tracking device for us to know where it actually has been. This is a mini-pat device by Wildlife Computers deployed aboard Chuck Manny's Tie Man For our Northeast striped bass study, a project launched back in 2019 with the Fisherman magazine and Gray Fish Tag Research. Now, this SAT tag tracking device registers water temperature, depth, and light over a period of time. And now in our case, it's several months, and it gives us an idea where these stripers go after they've been caught and released. I want you to take a look inside the May edition, our tail end feature for the month of May. This is the New Jersey Delaware Bay edition of the Fisherman magazine. But Jenny Ackerman has a tail end feature in there about that last tag deployed in 2023 that she found on the beaches of the Jersey Shore back on Good Friday. Now, I spoke with Roxanne from Gray Fish Tag Research about the data that's stored on this particular tag. It's quite preliminary, but I got to tell you, the early returns on this tracking of this striped bass over the winter months, extraordinary. So this tracking technology is opening up new opportunities, and the data retrieved thus far is sending us a brand new directions. So on Thursday, May 17th, we'll be holding our second annual Striper Quest event, deploying 4 more satellite tags in New York Bite Stripers and opening up the day's event to a field of 50 boats, the largest day of striped bass tagging, especially in competition form, anywhere. The captain's meeting is going to be at Ross Brewery in Belford, New Jersey on Wednesday night. The tagging competition commences on Thursday. Then we're going to have an after party with award ceremony. Following that fishing day, it's going to be back at Ross Brewery. And I hope to have some more details at that event on this latest SAT tag and what's inside, exclusively for folks who are going to be at that event, because I think that's the first time we're going to really be able to crack open this Easter egg. We've got people coming for this event from all over the world, literally. We've got guides coming from Mexico and Central America. Ben from Jackpot Sport Fishing out of Marina Pez Vela, he'll be there. Crews from Penn, AFW, Yozuri, Seagar, Tackle Direct, Caterpillar Marine, Steiger, and more, all competing to see who can tag the most stripers and help contribute to this ongoing striped bass effort. Again, it's a 50-boat field, and we think the last-minute entry requests will be heavy. So if you want to join us, I hope you would. I want you to go to grayfishtagresearch.org/striper-quest. You'll see it when you go to the grayfishtag.org homepage, or look to your May edition of the Fisherman magazine, scan the QR code, and I hope to see you there.
Need boat insurance? There's a reason Mueller Insurance Agency has been in business for over a century. When you need them most, their commitment to service and support will give you peace of mind and protect your investment. Visit MuellerInsurance.com or call 201-659-2403.
This Saturday is May 4th. It's the Summer Flounder Opener in the Garden State. Most waters have their limit set, 18 inches minimum size, 3-fish bag limit. Now, if you're fishing west of the coal regs on the Delaware Bay on the Jersey side, it's 3 at 17 inches. If fishing the surf at Island Beach, it's 2 at 16. Now, a lot of folks, some folks tend to think that this is an early start to the fluke season and they're not even in the back estuaries. And I think that's a big mistake to actually think that. Back in 2018, I wrote an article for the Fisherman magazine. You can find it at thefisherman.com. Type this complete headline into the search bar: Fluke, Strategy, Science, and Sex. That should spice up your browser history, huh? So in that article, I spoke to Dr. Ken Abel from the Rutgers Marine Field Station down in Tuckerton. He's been doing extensive research over the years on fluke migrations in and out of Great Bay. He has found that ultrasonically tagged fish sometimes return to that estuary as early as March. In some of their past research, the Rutgers Marine Field team found that flukes stay inside Great Bay on average 86 days, with most of the tagged fish leaving the estuary sometime between July and September, when those water temperatures get warm. Now, science says that summer flounder have already entered our estuaries, and my personal recommendations for this weekend are working the shallow edges, outside the creeks, up inside the creeks, perhaps where the tide's pushing across the shallow flats. This is probably the best time of year to catch fluke in the back bays. And based on some of Dr. Abel's work, it will be that way through sometime in mid-July. That's when those fish start to move to the deeper waters cooler waters, offshore waters. That's historically speaking. I did speak with Steve Palmer from Jingles Bait and Tackle a couple of weeks ago. He said some folks that were fishing along the South Jetty at Barnegat Light, this is several weeks ago, mind you, they said under the lights of Barnegat Lighthouse, you could see waves of summer flounder, pushing their way back through Barnegat Inlet and into those back bay areas in the Barnegat Bay. Waves of fluke. They're there. You want to fish them light. I mention that because, again, going back to that New Jersey Delaware Bay edition of the Fisherman magazine, the May edition, the one with Lee on the cover with the fluke there, turn to the table of contents for New Jersey, Delaware Bay, find Nick Honachesky's article about skinny water fluke. The details are there, and he's spot on in terms of finding success on Saturday and Sunday in the back. The biggest problem you're going to have in the next 2 days between now and then is figuring out what kind of tackle and bait you need to get geared up.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites.
I mentioned Honachesky's article on skinny water fluke in the Delaware Bay, New Jersey edition of the Fisherman magazine, but I also got a great email this week about Nick's spring bluefish article that you'll find in the glossy section. Yeah, we keep him busy around here. I love the fact that the Hammer is so willing to open up his mind and his logbooks to tactical analysis. Anyway, Captain George Oliver runs a boat called Off Peak, and he says, quote, I read my Fisherman magazine cover to cover as soon as I get it. Nick Honachesky's Get to the Chopper. Get to the choppers! There's a bomb in there! Get to the Chopper Spring Blues article in the May issue hit the sweet spot as I got them just like he described at the end of April, just north of the Maniloking Bridge. This photo taken by Jeanette Oliver. Get to the choppers. By the way, George had 56-degree water temperatures earlier this week on the outgoing tide, and with high temps today, Thursday, going into the 80s, I'm quite excited about my Saturday trip with Hutch Sr. Father's Sunday, opening day fluke, just like old times. Bluefish action is pretty good right now. Some of the fish on the shallows and the bays and estuaries, the old haunts, if you will, they're producing a crazy topwater bite. Sean Smith said he and the three other kayakers, including his brother Dave, had a blast on the Blues over the weekend in Monmouth County on the kayak in about 3 feet of water, walking the dog up top. You can look for these racers running the inlets at this point in the salty rivers. Grab those old plugs, put the single hooks on, give your tackle a test. Obviously, you can throw lures at these fish, also chunks of bunker in the surf, which of course will also net you, or could also net you, a striped bass or two on that front surf action. That has greatly improved, and it's only getting better. Not one to miss out on a hot bite, the Fisherman magazine's own Jenny Ackerman. And on this week's open boat, school is back in session. She's only a year out of college, mind you, so she's used to sitting down and learning and sharing what she learned. Bluefish biology, from the waters they inhabit to their criminal record, making a menace of plugs. Here's Jenny with a look at the return of the yellow-eyed demons.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Open Boat, and today, my little open boaters, school is back in session. I am doing another fish biology episode. Now, if you haven't already heard, the yellow-eyed demons have invaded the East Coast. I've been crushing them every single night. They are an absolute favorite of mine. The serial killers of soft plastics, the annihilators of plugs are here. And today I'm going to give you a little rundown on bluefish biology. Now, first off, with their Latin name, the Pomatomus saltatrix. That sounds like a new conventional reel coming out in 2025, but that is in fact their Latin name for the good old bluefish. Now, the females can lay between 400,000 and 2 million eggs, and those eggs can hatch after only 48 hours of being in the water. And the little baby blues, unlike their adult counterparts that feed on literally anything that moves, the little ones feed on plankton. Now, as they get older, of course, they're going to feed on smaller fish. They're going to see anything that swims around them. They're going to try to take a chomp out of. Some of them have even been known to target humans. I know a lot of surfers are more afraid of bluefish than they are of sharks because of their just vicious reputation. They just want to eat everything in sight. They are gluttons and absolutely ferocious. Now, bluefish can live for up to 12 years. And the biggest record bluefish was caught out of Hatteras, North Carolina, and it was 31 pounds, 12 ounces. You think you can beat that this season? I don't know. I'm just happy to catch one. So bluefish are really cool because they could be found basically throughout the world's oceans, prominently in tropical to temperate waters. Most of the time, they're very common in the Atlantics, but they can also be found in the Indian and South Pacific Oceans. Now, since I familiarized you guys on the biology, it's always important to know a little bit fishy facts about the species you're trying to target. I'll get into the regs. If you wanted to keep the bluefish, they aren't really so tasty, but there are recipes that make them work. But, you know, catch and release if you don't want to eat them. So the regulations throughout the region, there's no closed season, there's no size limit. Anglers can keep 3 fish. However, if you're on a for-hire boat, there's a 5 fish bag per angler limit. Now, targeting the species. Now, everyone thinks that you can only get them on top water. That's only if they're feeding, you know, they have blitzes, just like striper blitzes, bluefish blitz on the surface. My favorite top water lure to target bluefish is the Island X. This is in their amber color, and it's like a nice top water pencil. It has single hooks, so it's easy to remove the hooks. Bluefish have teeth. They're dangerous. You don't want to make the mistake I did. Just kidding. But there are people who have lost appendages to bluefish. Don't even try to lip them. Make sure you always have pliers. The Island X lure. This thing absolutely crushes bluefish on the surface. It has an excellent action. It's basically like a pencil popper, and it is loaded so it can cast even farther. Whether you're bluefishing off the boat or you're bluefishing off the surf, you can basically grab the top of the plug. Hopefully it's hooked on that tail hook and just pop the bluefish off. You want to avoid the mouth as much as you can. Next up in the water column is something that I've been crushing them on locally here. You can see the battle scars on this plug. This is the new Tsunami Tidal Pro twitch bait. And I swapped out the back hook for a single because there's just too many troubles. You're asking for trouble when you're using trebles for bluefish. So it's always good to swap out a back treble for a single hook. And like I said, you can see the battle scars from this thing. It's got absolutely annihilated by bluefish, and it has a nice rattle that just aggravates them even more. And now sometimes they're not even on the top or in the mid-water column, they're on the bottom. So you basically have to jig them up. So what do I use when I'm jigging up bluefish? Just a handy dandy bucktail. You can never go wrong with a bucktail. You just jig it off the bottom, and trust me, if there's bluefish around, they're gonna find it. They will hunt down your lure and make it their personal goal to absolutely annihilate it. One of the best fighting fish off the surf is the bluefish. Now, get yourself ready to go out there and target some blues, and be mindful of your fingers, because bluefish like those too. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you guys on next week's Open Boat.
Come into Creekside Outfitters in Waretown on Route 9 because we are bigger than you think. Men's and women's apparel, inshore, offshore, freshwater, back bay, rods, reels, lures, rigs, jigs, bait. We have it all. Living life Creekside.
It's officially the month of May, which means 2 solid months of drumming down on Delaware Bay. I hope you hooked up with a charter down out of Cape May, because I know those boats fill up fast. You can also check in with the folks at Higbee's in Fortescue. Quite a few boats down there will be running for drum in the next 2 months. The Headboat Bonanza, you've got the Captain's Lady, the Duchess, plenty of options. Again, back in the Cape May area, I would encourage you to stop by Hands 2 Bait and Tackle. Nick and the guys there can point you in the right direction if you want to get on some of those boomers. Now, that said, We just don't know 100% about striped bass. We mentioned that before. We don't know much about blues and where they've gone the last few years. And of course, there's that steelhead trout in the Garden State. But black drum are a bit of an enigma as well. They've been pushing throughout the region more and more each year with that Barnegat Bay bonanza that we had just a few weeks ago. And now fish being reported with more frequency in North Jersey as well. From the front side of the hook all the way back in along the Raritan Bay shore. Actually, Phil Tompkins emailed this week. He said his brother Andrew had a boomer on the beach in Monmouth Beach. Now, the funny thing about these drum, and perhaps a little bit like tog, but in the spring they're more apt to hit the softer baits like clam. They'll also take tog jigs with crab baits. I've caught them that way while looking for sheep's head in the late summer into the fall. But also late in the summer, after these black drum have all but disappeared after the spawn and the May-June madness on Delaware Bay, they'll often be found chasing baits out front. I've heard of them chasing bunker schools, guys that are fluking at the wrecks and reefs in the fall with a high-low rig with a bucktail or something. They'll catch these drums. So it seems like the black drums start chasing baits more as the water temperatures warm later in the season. But I would tell you another thing. One misconception about drum is that folks that aren't familiar with drum say, oh, they all have worms. That's not true. The 10 to 20 pound class drum are fantastic table fare. You've just the Cajun spices on a hot cast iron grill. You blacken the black drum just like Chef Paul Prudhomme did with those redfish. And a lot of folks do let the bigger ones go. Those jumbo drums are the ones that tend to get the worms in the tail meat. I'm saying 50, 60, 80 pounds. You know, those drum that have been around for a few years. You know, as you get older, things start to fall apart and you get worms. That's just nature. But I highly encourage those, what we call them, the dinner table size drum of 10 to 20 pound class. Surf clams, of course, are phenomenal for black drum. They're getting harder to find this season. Every season they seem to get it harder to find, and they're getting a tad smaller too. They're much smaller than the bushel bags we used to get 10 years ago. But anchoring up with a bunch of smashed clams spread all around your boat, it's a great way to kick back with a buddy, with your father. You can get black drum that way in some of the estuaries off the side of a creek. Also, if you've got a place where there's an oyster bed or where there's some clam beds, that might be a good place to set up the occasional drum and also stripers as well. Another seasonal visitor this time of year, which makes this season such a great season to be at the Jersey Shore, we've got weakfish back. Personally, I still think it's a tad early for the good run of spawning class tide runners, those jumbos of May and June. That's certainly when that fishery becomes hot. But those beautiful saltwater trout are back in local waters and on the prowl. In fact, I saw last week again where the folks at Sea Isle Bait and Tackle, they had Hannah stop into the shop with her first weekie. It was a 22-incher, weighed in at 3.75 pounds. What I've always liked to do this time of year is to prep for the weakfish by grabbing a heavy-duty Ziploc bag. I'll put in all my favorite baits, the pink zooms, the bubblegum finesse. Put them in that heavy-duty Ziploc bag, get some finesse and cheddar oil, squeeze that all in there, douse them, let those suckers marinate in there. I've not done the same thing with the NLBNs. I'll probably keep them separate this year just because you rig them on a different head. But again, the NLBNs are fantastic. I'll send you back to that May edition. If you're looking to gear up for weakfish, take a look at Matt Broderick's article on soft plastics for weakfish. Tide runner weakfish, monster blues, and the start of the Fluke season. That means we're all set for another season of the Fisherman Magazine's Dreamboat Fishing Challenge. I hope your subscription is up to date because this is a members-only contest, and the quest for a brand new Steiger is officially underway.
Make 2024 your year to win. Compete in the Fisherman Magazine's Dreamboat Fishing Challenge. It's our subscriber-only season-long region-wide multi-species fishing competition to win a brand new Yamaha-powered Steigercraft 21 center console. Go to thefisherman.com to check out all the amazing prizes. Remember, this contest is for Fisherman Magazine subscribers only. Catch fish and enter to win. Sign up today.
Shad are still running on the Delaware River. I've had reports too that folks are still catching and releasing some big jumbo spawning striped bass on cut shad. Just keep in mind the local regulation on American and hickory shad on the Delaware, guys, when you're making bait. Derek Fredrickson knows all about it. He knows what his limit is in terms of shad, and he knows how to hold those jumbo stripers that he's been catching, I think, in the Philly area on a regular basis. I hope that all those jumbo stripers that are up the Delaware River right now bode well for a solid young of the year class, a reproduction year, because we could use a good recruitment year on striped bass. The Bi-State Shad Contest has wrapped up for the 2024 season with the final results and a look at our freshwater options in the weekend ahead. My man George, the Pocono Outdoors guy.
Well, hey, thanks, Jim. You know, we're going to start things off with the shad season. You know, we finally wrapped up that big Bi-State shad fishing contest. And I'll tell you what, it was a really tough 4-day grind. Lots of guys are saying, you know, it was a really tough. They didn't get the numbers that they seen. Other guys got on the fish pretty well, but it was all said and done. After 4 days, there could be only one winner. And that happened to be Ryan Peterson of Easton, PA, with a 5.185 pound shad, bringing in top prize for the shad. Coming in second was Steve Kohler from Washington's Crossing. He managed to get a 5.18, and Mickey Kitchen from Blairstown, New Jersey, coming in third at 5.170. Now, guys, you can go to shadfishingcontest.com to get all the results. But again, it was a great tournament this year. A big thank you again to Eric Visser for organizing this whole event. Also, guys, you know, bass is starting to pick up a little bit more now with water temperatures starting to pick up. You know, the weather's turning a little bit nicer, so you're starting to get some more of that largemouth action. We had Tom Oshinsky check in with his new PB already this year, a 7-pound, 5-ounce. He got out of Nockamixon Lake, and he got that on a purple Senko worm. So great work there, Tom, and good on that new PB. Also, guys, out here, just like in Beltsville, guys are starting to pick up more and more on the striper bite as the water temperatures pick up. My good friend Josh Taylor was out here the other day and got himself into one beefy little hybrid. I'll tell you, those things are a handful, even though they're much smaller than their pure strain cousins. But lots of great fishing out here, whether you're on this lake, on the river, lots of things to get onto, guys. Now, this coming weekend, it looks like we might be in for a little bit cooler and wetter weather. We'll see if that, hope it doesn't dampen the fishing any, but we'll see what happens. Guys, get out and get on them. But from Pennsylvania, I'm George, your Pocono Outdoors guy.
The Coastal Kayak Clash is back for 2024. Win this Old Town Sportsman PDL 120 fully outfitted by yakatak.com. Our second place winner will take home this Humminbird Helix 7. Win third place and you walk away $500 richer. And there are many other ways to win as well. We've got reels from Daiwa and lures and gear from Yozori. If you fish from a kayak and you're a Fisherman subscriber, you're eligible to enter the CKC. Catch one of 8 qualifying species. Photograph them next to a flat ruler showing the Fisherman tag with your kayak clearly visible and get yourself on the leaderboard. This kayak-only tournament kicks off May 1st and ends November 30th. Get all the details at thefisherman.com.
The trophy bluefin bite at the Jersey Shore has been simply off the hook, almost literally off the hook as well. Friend of mine who's engaged in this fishery, if I'm not mistaken, felt at least 24 giants were brought to port during this past weekend alone here at the Jersey Shore. Captain Mike Nolan checked in with me this week. He had Rob Scudera and FJ Iantilli on. They had an 80-incher boated on his 23-foot Maycraft. Weighed in at over 280 pounds at Twin Lights Marina over the weekend. My buddy Jim Peters, he texted me on Saturday. He said his crew taped one out, 111 inches, weighed in dressed at 755 pounds. Amazing. Jimmy said to me later, he said, you know, a lot of giants being caught. I've never seen so many. It was a great season, but I jokingly responded back, that's only because the sub quota was still open. Well, that's no longer the case as of 11:30 tonight, May 2nd, because NOAA Fisheries announced on Wednesday that the trophy bluefin subquota has been filled. Now it's going to be back to the seasonal limits, only bluefin under that 73-inch threshold. That's as of Friday. We'll revisit the HMS info at some point soon, maybe in the next couple of weeks. Now that that subquota is filled, if you've gotten this notification, you'll see it on Facebook. Everybody's going to say, oh, the quota, it's shut down. No. It's the trophies. Every year this time, the trophy bluefin fishery blows up in the New York Bight. Everybody piles on them, but that usually only lasts a couple of weeks, right on schedule. We will have a bluefin season, a yellowfin season, a longfin season, and a big eye season. We'll cover more on that in next week or two, all right? But I will tell you this. Our U.S. bluefin data, it's lacking in the recreational community. We don't have enough information, certainly don't have enough DNA sampling on these giants. So, the University of Maine is looking to fill the gaps with bluefin DNA sampling from within the angling community specifically. So, if you'd like some details on how to contribute DNA sampling of trophy bluefin, I want you to write this number down. It's Dr. Walt there at University of Wayne. It's 207-351-5413. You can also email him the information at walter.golett, G-O-L-E-T, at maine.edu. Get some information, help participate in more science and data collection in the bluefin fishery. Now, this Saturday, if you're not fluking or you box them up early and you're ready to head home, I want you to go out to Seaside Park this week. The marina across from Grumpy's Tackle. It's the 29th annual Berkeley Striper Club Fisherman's Flea Market. It's from 8:30 a.m. until 2 p.m. It's outdoors, great event, custom plugs, plenty of tackle, probably the last Fisherman's Flea Market tackle event, one of these flea markets of the season. That's going to be held at the J Street Marina, the park there, right on the bay. Admission is $7 for adults. Kids 10 and under, you're admitted free. Also this Saturday, the 39th annual Women's Surf Fishing Club at New Jersey, the Women's Surf Fishing Club of New Jersey, their spring tournament. It's an ASAC sanctioned event, Association of Surf Angling Clubs. It's open to teams and individuals. You don't have to just be a lady, and you don't have to be involved in a club. It's open to everybody. If you want to gear up early, I'd encourage you to stop by and see Andy at Riptide Bait and Tackle. He says the striper bite has been pretty good there in the last week or so on that side of the Absecon Inlet, north of the jetty there. So you've got a good opportunity. It should be a really great tournament. For details on that tournament, by the way, you can contact Reggie Vasta, 215-901-2474, or Cosmo, F-A-E-R-I-E, at AOL.com. All this information, by the way, is in the May edition of the Fisherman magazine. Take a look at the calendar of events. You've got it all. My condolences this week, by the way, to Andy and crew at Riptide Bait and Tackle, the sudden passing of Joe DeJovan, a.k.a. Riptide Joe, a fixture in the shop until noon most days. But he was a terrific guy, and our hearts and prayers are out there for his family and for the entire Brigantine community. It was a sudden loss. He was a terrific guy, and I'm sorry for Andy and all you folks. And we also lost another Jersey Shore tackle legend just the other day, Butch Pawson, well known for his Butch's tackle rigs that are found in so many tackle shops along the coast. Butchie was ever active in groups like the Bergen County Saltwater Anglers, also the Hudson River Fishermen's Association. Condolences to the Pawson family from all of us here at the Fisherman magazine. Again, I remind you, fluke season, flounder, flatties, fish sandwiches, doormats, all three, whatever you want to take them. They're back in play this Saturday, May 4th, with 3 to 18 inches. And I'm guessing that fluke tournaments at the Jersey Shore, since we're out of that slot, will probably see kind of a renaissance this year, a rebirth. A lot of folks didn't want to participate in fluke tournaments last year because of the slot. We're back in play at 3 at 18. So you want to go jump into tournament circuit. The very first tournament here at the Jersey Shore that I know of, your first shot at winning cash for catching fluke, is Saturday, May 11th. That's the Valhalla Flounder Open on the Bass River. It's based there at the Valhalla Yacht Sales, right there at the base of Viking Yachts, right there at Breezes on the Bass River. I'll be there, just not sure just yet whether I'm participating in the tournament or just spectating. If you want to get the information, stop into Valhalla Yacht Sales, take a look at some of the local shops, but you can also go to fisheриesconservationtrust.org, register for the tournament, and again, all that information right there in the May edition of the Fisherman magazine. I'd love to see some of your photos this weekend of fluking. I want to share some of the significant catches maybe in next week's video. You can email them to me at jhutchinson@thefisherman.com. Keep that email address handy too, because if someone in your household was recently expelled from Columbia University, I want to help you out. I've got some yard work that needs to be done and a boat that needs to be cleaned, so feel free to email me there. Folks, I wish you the very best of luck this weekend, and you know what? I will see you out there.